Hey guys, what's going on? It's Mike from the Hardcover comic. So I've been getting a lot of questions whenever we talk about binds. People ask about how to bind trade paperbacks. So today I'm gonna take apart Bug and Eternity Girl for a upcoming bind that I'm doing. These are both trade paperbacks. You need a hair dryer for this, but this is the way I've done all my trade paperbacks, from thin 6 issue trade paperbacks like this all the way up to something like the Invincible Compendium. Obviously with a thicker book, things take a little more time, but we'll get started with Bug here. What you want to do is obviously have hopefully your dryer has 2 settings, but what we're going to do first is we need to get the front and back cover off, right? Off the book block. So it's glued obviously, and we need to obviously melt that glue a little bit, enough to pull it off. So I always turn the hair dryer to high here, and I just sort of run up and down the spine a little bit. Obviously, the more time you spend running the hair dryer up and down the spine, the looser the glue will be, and the easier it'll be to pull this whole thing apart. But for the sake of this video, I tried to be pretty quick with it. I didn't spend too much time going over it. What's great about doing something like this is you can, it you know volume permitting, you can crank up the TV show or something and keep watching it while your hair dryer is going. But the hair dryer is running pretty much this entire time, right? I'm sorry, obviously, I didn't want to keep that audio in because it would not be fun to listen to. But it's running the whole time on high setting, and I'm gonna you grab the book block and you just sort of start pulling, right? And what I've noticed is it's a little easier and a little cleaner to obviously, keep that hair dryer on it as long as possible. And it's easier to just start from one end and work your way through to the other end, sort of moving the hair dryer along, and then also sort of utilizing both the front and the back of the trade, right? So pull on the back a little bit. You can see the spines disconnecting there as well, which is always a good sign. And then of course the other side, just to even it out and get that going. But I mean, it requires a little bit of patience, no doubt. If you rush it, you could potentially rip some of your pages. Thankfully, I didn't do that here at all. Um, you got to be patient at the end of the day. With binding, there's never really a rush for anything, right? You're waiting a long time to collect the content. You're waiting a long time to take it apart and prepare it, and then you're waiting a long time for the actual bind itself to be completed. So it's definitely it's a good way to practice your patience and and all that. But I mean, that's really all there is to it for this first little bit. Just slowly but firmly pulling on it, holding on to that book block the whole time. You'll feel it once. You'll obviously be able to tell when the blow dryer is working. Obviously, as you get further down the book, you're going to want to move that hair dryer a little closer, just to make sure you're optimizing your heat distribution. And yeah, just keep yanking on it, but it's a lot of fun. Like I mentioned, I've done this with something as large as the Invincible Compendium. It's a little more difficult. The spines on a bigger book like that are far more difficult to pull off. But for something like these like epic collections and whatnot, it's the same process. The spine comes off relatively easily as well. And these young animal books are sort of like an epic collection style of paper, this sort of matte news print style. And what's great about it is, it doesn't rip. It's very solid paper. And so you'll be left with this block. You see a little bit of paper on the spine there, which is totally fine. That will come off as you proceed through, the process. And so once you've got this, I usually just take the cover and use it as a placemat, sort of, because on the back you've still got glue where you disconnected the spine. And you're going to usually lose this last page, I'm going to be honest with you. This one actually turned out really well, but for the most part, I found I typically lose the last page, just because it gets stuck while I'm doing this next step, and then, it ends up going to waste. But what you're going to do here is you're going to grab a chunk of pages, start small, of course, and work your way up. You want to keep the hair dryer going as much as you can. I turn it to low at this point as well, just because it's less volume. You don't need that much heat at this point. Most of the tricky work is done, and then all you do is go page by page, separate it. Make sure you're placing them down sequentially. Make sure they're on the right end, on the right side of that blow dryer, because you do not want that blow dryer firing your pages off all over the room. That would not be fun to have to fix. And yeah, you just go page by page. A few things to note, the front page and the back page, like I said, they've still got glue on them from the cover stock. And so, they're usually when I give this to my bindery, I'll tell them, hey, FYI, the front and back page may be stuck, so please just be careful. And so, yeah, there you go. So you got to watch that blow dryer, I'm telling you. It'll get you. It's not your friend. It is not your friend. But, and that's basically what you keep doing. You grab another thicker chunk, keep pushing through it. Separate again page by page, keeping the sequence. And I'm going to fast forward a little bit because obviously this I don't want to give away the story too much for Bug Adventures of Forager, and it's not too entertaining to look at as is. So fly through all this really fun stuff. Like I said, I usually watch a show or listen to a podcast on earphones, something loud that I can hear. And you know what? We'll just jump ahead in general here. So once you're done, once you're getting to the end, there may be times where you get this sort of what remains of the spine with a little bit of glue on it. And, obviously you want to get rid of that, right? So you just sort of peel it off. Again, you got the blow dryer going the whole time. Just gently peel it off. I found, at this point it comes off pretty easily. Takes off the remaining paper and glue and all that crap that's hanging onto the pages. So just yank that off, throw it away, leave it for another time, and keep going the way you were. That might happen a few times again, depending on the size of the trade paperback you've got. You may have to do a few of those, which is fine. It gets kind of fun. It's not too difficult if you keep applying heat regularly. The glue melts relatively quickly. It's nothing super crazy. But I'm going to do the same thing with Eternity Girl, but I'm going to speed it up a little bit. I still want to, again, show once again the book block removal. With this one, I actually did not apply heat for very long. And so you can see it's a little more difficult. It does make a really big difference. This one I really had to go from one side to the other and work my way through it, but made it through. Was not too bad. Nothing tragic happened to my pages. No rips, no tears, nothing like that, thank goodness. But I was able to actually use all the pages for Eternity Girl, and did a little differently. Took one side off this time. Second side took a little while longer. But of course, once you've got that, once again, you see the book block. You got a little bit of paper on it. No big deal. That's very easy to get rid of, like I mentioned before. But again, once again, fast forward through some of the actual, sequencing parts. Again, keeping heat on it the whole time, pulling away chunks of maybe 20 pages. If you feel that the glue's coming apart real fast, you can grab thicker and thicker chunks. Totally fine. I've done that before. And it works as well. Sometimes I'll even grab like 50 pages at once and just work my way through them. But that's about it, guys. Once you've got that, once you're done, you've got your nice stack of separated pages. Of course, you can't do all types of binding this way. I usually do defab, which is a type of glue, and that works perfectly fine with this. The bindery takes care of everything else from this point on, at least the one I use, Lehman Bookbinding. Like I said, the first page is still a little sticky, and when I cover it with the backboards here, again, I leave a note for them saying, hey, just so you know, it's going to be sticky on the front and back. Please just watch out for that when you're taking it apart. And again, Lehman Bookbinding has been very, very good to me in that regard. I haven't lost any pages to them, thankfully. As you can see here, it gets stuck pretty quickly. Of course, as that glue gets colder, it'll happen more. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was Mike from the Hardcover Comic. If you have questions, ask them below. Until next time, you stay classy, Internet.